Our guest today is Jayme Ward. She is the co-founder and executive director of Faraway Friends. You started this organization with co-founder Collins Anguich, correct?
Yeah, Colin saying much. Yes, I did.
All right, I got that right.
Yeah,
Yes.
way to go.
I've struggled in the past. Yeah. So tell us, I guess, how this started and what your mission is.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me. It's awesome to be here and so exciting to, do a podcast with somebody that, is a friend of mine and know and trust you and your wife. So thanks for having me. So Faraway Friends started, I guess I'm going to take you back to my high school days when I was a sophomore at Lakewood High School here in Colorado. I was a kid with not a lot of direction of what I wanted to do in life. I mean, sophomore, junior year, you're supposed to at least have some sort of direction, right? Where are you going to go for college? What are you going to do with your life? I wasn't one of those kids that really knew. And I heard about an organization that was raising awareness about the issue of child soldiering that was going on in northern Uganda. From the late 80s until about 2007, 2008, there was a very severe war that was happening in northern Uganda, led by a man named Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army. This man was abducting children and forcing them to fight in his rebel army to overtake and overthrow the government.
Yeah, I've heard of Kony before.
Yeah, so there was a big film that went out about that a few years ago. But so this organization was sending young people who were affected by the war to American high schools to educate young people in the U.S. about this issue and how they could get involved. And so to my high school came this young woman named Collins who was representing less than 1% of women in northern Uganda who make it to a college level of education. She was studying international development. She was just this dynamic public speaker. And when she told her story about being a night commuter, which meant that she would leave her boarding school from like 3rd to 5th grade in the middle of the night when they would get threats against their school, that there was going to be abductions happening in these boarding schools, these kids en masse would leave at night and go hide in the bush or on at bus parks, places where there was a lot of light. And Collins did this for over 3 years of her childhood. So hearing her story and what she had to overcome in her lifetime, I thought, this is somebody with direction. This is somebody with passion. Whatever she is doing, I want to be a part of that. And she sat me down and talked to me about her passion for education and women's empowerment. And these were things that really resonated with me. And she said, Jayme, my biggest dream is to start a school in my home village. And do you want to be part of it? Do you want to help me out? And without even thinking, I said yes. And that was 11 years ago now. And today we have a full-fledged organization that is one of the biggest employers in the region where we work, 500 students who are attending our school, and over 2,500 students in rural Uganda who are a part of our work. So little dream planted in high school ended up becoming a full-on career path for both of us.
Are there still threats there at this time?
Good question. So the LRA actually left northern Uganda in the early mid-2000s and moved into Central African Republic and Democratic Republic of Congo. There are still some attacks that happen in those regions that are credited to the LRA, but no longer are they active in Uganda. But there was a lot of rebuilding that had to be done. Right, in the north in particular, they targeted schools. So you had just a generation of kids who got their education either interrupted or lost completely, and a generation of parents, new parents, who were former child soldiers who were affected by this war, who never had the opportunity to go to a safe school with incredible teachers and all the resources they needed. And so that was part of Collins's mission and what she wanted to change. So.
Wasn't there a movie about that? There was a boy in the movie who was the main actor, who was the child soldier, and he was forced to, I think, kill other kids and stuff like that. Wasn't there a movie about that?
There's so many, Jeremiah. Like, if I could have enough time, I would name all of them. But the one film that I saw was a film by an organization called Invisible Children that made this documentary that Collins, who was a recipient of a scholarship from them, ended up touring with. And it was that documentary about a former child soldier that changed the trajectory of my whole life, and Collins too, for that matter. So that's one of the many films that have been created to tell these stories.
So not only do they not have educational institutions, or didn't have, they were, vandalized or destroyed or scared out of them. They also were forced to do horrendous things in their years of development as a human being, and put into these situations where, that's insanity.
Yeah. And like, as a parent, I'm sure you can't even imagine like your children having to go through something like that. And we're talking about 300,000 children in one region, in one small area of the world who are affected. 300,000 children over the course of that war, if not more. That might be an old data point, but that's the one I remember the most. Were affected directly by this war that happened, and so you've got a scar on this community now, and the people that I've met that have been affected directly by the LRA are some of the most resilient, strong, magnificent people I've ever met. When I had the opportunity at 19 to go to Uganda for the first time, it was my first time out of the country. Parents never even went on a vacation to Mexico, for that matter. I got to go for the first time and go and stay with Collins, stay in her community, meet people who were affected by this issue. And that experience of meeting those people was so profound for me that I couldn't look away anymore. And I said, I have to dedicate like my life's mission to helping these people help their children and help their communities. And if I can be a voice for that in my own community, that's what I'm going to do.
So you're here in America, and Collins is over there, and you guys are co-founders, but with her being there all of the time, what are some of the things that she's doing there full time, and what are you doing here to kind of, because I know you just came back from there as well, right? So you're doing some things here to try to funnel some support from other parts of the world to there.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's managing what's happening there, but you guys are not only looking at Uganda as well, are you?
That's a good question. So to answer the first part of that, Collins and I like to consider ourselves like two sides of the same coin, right? I run all the US side, so any education around these issues for Americans, especially young Americans in high school, who are interested in international development or the kind of work we do, or Ugandan history in particular. I feel really proud to be able to speak on that. I also do all of the fundraising, donor development, all the admin work on the organization side, and Collins handles all of our implementation as truly like the local leader on the ground. Not only is she a local leader in our organization, but in her community as well. Her big dream is to run for a member of parliament seat, and I have no doubt that will be achieved in her youth already. Like, she's amazing. So we work in tandem together to see our mission through. I'm in Uganda about once a year. If we're taking an immersion trip with high school students or teachers from the US who are interested in going and learning about that alongside local leaders. Sometimes I go more. Collins is actually coming out here in October to do some fundraising with me. So we've been able to make it work out that we're kind of in our own lanes, but working together towards this mission.
Yeah, and you had told me before that you guys, I don't know if it's both of you, but you had told me that the ultimate goal is to build schools or open schools in other places that have needs as well. Yeah,
so that's your second part of that question was, are we interested in expanding other places than Uganda? So how I would answer that is we know a lot about Collins's home community, her home district of Amolatar district, which is a minority district, very cut off from the rest of Uganda. Until 2013, there wasn't even like a ferry that could cross the lake to get to where this region is, where her village is. It's very isolated and rural. And because we know so much about this area, because our staff is all local, our co-founder is born and raised there, her family still lives there, we decided to draw a circle around this district, which is about, I believe, 120,000, 140,000 people strong, and say, until we have solved the issue of educational poverty here, we are not moving on to other countries or other districts, because in Uganda, there's so many different tribes, ethnic groups, different things to consider when you're working in a community. And it's really important to me as a visitor to this community, as a guest when I'm there, that I can speak on behalf of community members in a way that makes them proud of what we're doing. I can't say that about Sorority or about Jinja. I don't work there. I don't know anybody from there. Same with like Tanzania or Botswana. I'm not going to go and work there because I don't know anything about Tanzania or Botswana. We know about this community and we know their needs intimately. But within that community, there's about 65 schools that need a lot of support. Government has about $1 per child per year of education spending for this district.
Wow.
$1. So imagine, you have children that the school district, our school district says, we have $1 for each of your kids to spend on their education for the whole year. There's 40,000 kids in this district. $1 is nothing.
Wow.
So these kids aren't eating at school. Their teachers aren't trained. Sometimes
school supplies.
No. I mean, you have some really great private schools that are run by organizations kind of similar to ours, but public schools are in need of a lot of support. And so that's our secondary focus. Our first focus was starting our own primary school, showing how great education can look in this community. Secondary focus is how do we uplift every school in that entire community so that every one of those 40,000 kids are thriving.
Absolutely. If you educate people, then the whole economy of the country will change, because once you have educated people, then people they're holding all kinds of different positions.
Right.
They have skills where they can do things, whether it's opening up a grocery store or auto body shop or lawyers, doctors, anything.
Yeah. And
uneducated people, they can't progress.
Just to kind of put it in perspective for you, Michael, there's actually a slide on that slideshow that shows a school in northern Uganda. I'm going to scroll right there. We're going to go back to that one. So what I'm showing on the screen right now is a photo of a school that we are hoping to work with in this district. And as you can see from this lunch video, there is a video here of a teacher just scooping what looks like water instead of beans into these children's bowls. And that if they get lunch, this is what's offered, which is basically nothing. This picture on the far right looks like a brick.
So is that
structure.
Just like, that's water, but it has just a very, like everybody's getting like a couple beans or something.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah.
And what is that? Like a maize?
So, so it's like a maize flour base. It's called posho, which is a staple in Uganda. It's just corn flour and water, basically. And then so rice and beans, or posho and beans, is a staple school food. But when you see videos and images like this, and you see classrooms that have 1,000 children per one classroom, and one teacher is supposed to manage all that, and toilets are in such a state of disrepair that how could you ever expect a girl who is menstruating to use that toilet or to clean up if she had an accident? It's really, really heartbreaking, and every child deserves more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's rough. So this is so not only repairing schools and building new schools. Sorry, I misspoke. So not just opening new schools, but also trying to repair and upgrade existing schools?
You're right. So the one school that we opened is called Global Leaders Primary School. And there might be a slide in here as well, Michael. I would love to show you the picture just for reference. You can keep going. So this is when we started, but this is Global Leaders now. As you can see, we've developed our own school with a really beautiful sprawling campus where kids have daily meals every single day, where they have places to play. They have large classrooms, trained teachers, food and water at school, medical care at school, everything they need to thrive, right? This is our model for what's possible in this community. And we want to take this model and apply it to existing schools that are in need of uplift and support. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. There's great schools out there still. There's dedicated teachers at our sister schools in Uganda. They just need a little extra support. They just need somebody to see them and say, I see you and you deserve this support. And all the kids that are at this school deserve extra support. And so does their families and so do their communities. Just because you were born in a rural district doesn't mean you're any less deserving of the same quality of education that you would get in an urban setting. So that's what we're really trying to address.
Yeah, I bet, and I don't know, I'm very ignorant to this, but I would imagine when you start doing something like this in a community that hasn't had this, I would imagine a lot of those kids would love to grow up to or want to grow up to be teachers. Mm-hmm. Do you see that? Like interest from the students?
Yeah. Teachers is like the number one next to, I think, doctor and like pilot is a big one at our school too. Our 500 kids at GLP are really super lucky to have a staff of about 30 highly trained, highly qualified local teachers. Now I'm sure you've seen organizations that recruit American teachers to come and teach in schools abroad, whether that's in Africa or Asia or just anywhere in need of support. We very intentionally decided that we would only ever hire local people that these kids from this community can look up to and say, I can be like that.
Yep.
So our headmaster at the school, his name is Tom Richard. Tom grew up literally down the street from our school. And one of our sister schools where he went to elementary has a photo of him hanging on the wall. His parents live in this village. So for him to be the headmaster of a school from his own community and for kids to look up to him, he's getting his master's right now, and to say, I can be that because I know my teacher's parents are down the road. He grew up the same as me. We face the same challenges. And likewise, Tom Richard knows how to speak to the challenges that our kids are facing in a totally unique way that visitors from abroad wouldn't be able to do if they were in that classroom teaching. So it's really important to us that all of our teachers are Ugandan at least, or if not local from that community.
Yeah, I would imagine that they would have a lot more pride in their school, especially after you don't have something in life and you have, all those tragedies and mm-hmm. then you have it, you value it more. Unlike in our society where we take it for granted. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. I can see a place like this really, really thriving in this environment, more than our students probably mm-hmm. in America.
Yeah. A little braggy moment, if I may. One of our big missions at Faraway Friends is to help kids in elementary school specifically do amazing on a test called the PLE. It's the primary leaving exam that you take at primary 7, which is about our 8th grade level, that qualifies you to get into high school. And if you do poorly on this exam, you have to either retake the year and take the exam again, or you don't go to high school. So in the community that we work in, about 75% of kids are not passing that test and are ending their education at primary 7. And so you have a generation of kids who only have a 7th, 8th grade level of education.
Where's that at?
In the community that we work in Amolatar district. It recently, a few years ago, was like one of the poorest performing school districts in the entire country of Uganda. And my co-founder Collins was like very, very passionate about changing that. And so we found that, getting amazing teachers and helping our students at that primary foundation level to have like a great kindergarten experience all the way through 7th grade 100% of our students are passing that test for the last 3.5 years. Last year, we had a student, it might have been 2 years ago, who was just 2 points away from a perfect score. And she grew up in this community.
Is that the same school you were referencing before?
This is our school, yeah.
Or so the other school where kids were not passing at 7th grade level?
That's the entire district, Jeremiah.
Oh,
so like that's
the entire...
40,000 kids in that district. Out of that 40,000 group of kids, 5,000 of them are going to go to high school in their district. Where's the other 35,000 kids gone? Half of them are dropping out.
So what is that, about 12%?
A tiny, tiny fraction. Yeah. And so what opportunities are available for the rest of those kids? Subsistence farming. 1 in 4 girls will become pregnant before she's 19 years old. They're not going to finish school. We see cycles of generational poverty start over when kids are not continuing that educational path. We at least want kids to be able to make it to secondary school, graduate at senior 4, and then choose if they want to go to trade school or if they want to go to university and make those choices themselves. But at 7th grade, you have so much left to learn and to live. So we're just hoping we could give all of these kids an opportunity like Collins had to get an education, represent her people, come home and do something great for your people, and then travel the world and do whatever you want.
So how many schools have you guys helped so far?
Yeah, so we have our school, Global Leaders, is our flagship, and then we have about 6 other partners in the district. So out of 65 schools, 6 doesn't seem like many, but that represents almost 3,000 children across those schools. We provide teacher training for those teachers. So if we're bringing a trainer in to train our guys, we call our sister schools and say, hey, why don't you come out for this training? It's free. We'll even pay for you to get here. Come and learn, and then apply that in your classrooms. We also deliver a life skills curriculum to all of the students at those schools, those partner schools. Life skills curriculum includes stuff like everything from financial planning and interview skills to understanding boundaries in a relationship and how to communicate with your friends. Talking about mental health is something that's kind of taboo in Uganda, and we've also included that in our Skills for Life curriculum. So these kids are meeting once a week with their teachers, with their mentors, and talking about life skills and what they want to do and complete in their future. So we've seen a lot of success with that program.
Yeah, as far as I know, in America, I'm older now, so it's been a while since I've been in school, but I mean, my kids are still in school, and I don't see any type of life skills being taught, especially the financial and how to communicate with other people. The job interview thing is a big thing, not just for the job interview. That's not the only point of that. That's communication skills. That's what they're teaching you. And we don't have any of that.
Right.
Yeah. My son said the other day, he said, he told his mom, just use the card because you don't have to pay.
It's free money. Yeah.
Like, what the hell is this dude talking about?
I know, right?
Did I fail in not explaining this to this dude or what?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what?
It's plastic money, Dad. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah. So, I mean, and same for me too, is like, I didn't get a ton of support learning how to, do a job interview or how to talk to my friends when we're having conflict without it being like a big meltdown, right? Or how to recognize when you're feeling stress and anxiety. What is anxiety? What does that feel like? How do you manage that? I had a kid come up to me at one of our partner schools, one of the high schools that we work with out in Uganda. And this kid's name was Steven. And Steven came to me and he said, I just want you to know that since I've been taking life skills, I feel a lot more confident in speaking to people. My English wasn't as good as it was before. Now I feel like, well, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. He told me a pretty crazy story. He said, I have to walk to and from school, and it takes me about 50 minutes to get there and to get home. If it rains, I'm walking in the rain, and so many times I've wanted to quit. I've just wanted to quit and drop out. There was even times where I wanted to end my life. And after taking Skills for Life, I've learned that that is stress and that stress doesn't define me, and how to manage stress and how to manage my emotions and anxiety. Talk to my friends about it. and this is a teenage boy telling me these things in a country where, maybe talking about your emotions and your anxieties and stresses is a little taboo. So I feel like we're doing something right on behalf of the students that we work with.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, that war that ended, that was that the generation before these kids, like their
Their
parents?
parents. Yeah.
And a lot of them are not around.
So it depends where you are, right? We are a little bit further south. Where we work is a little bit further south than the epicenter of where the war was. But if you go up north to Lira or Gulu, a little bit further up where that war really, really destroyed these communities, you're meeting kids who are college age now who lost their parents, or, we had teachers at our own school that we had hired that were formerly held at gunpoint by another child on their walk to school during LRA occupation. And every single person who grew up in northern Uganda during that time has been touched by that war. There's not a single person who I was like, I don't know, I was talking to somebody who's a filmmaker in Uganda, and we're just having this casual conversation. He was like, yeah, it was like that one time that my dad hid me in the bushes and like put his hand over my mouth because there was a guy who's LRA in front of our house with like an AK like walking around. And I'll never forget that moment. And it's like, I'm sitting next to somebody who had this profound traumatic experience and yet is one of the most resilient and like powerful people I've ever met, So there is something about Ugandan culture and community that is different and special, and I'm just really lucky to be a part of it at all.
Yeah, and I also wanted to touch base on something, because we talked about this a little bit before.
Mm-hmm.
You're the blonde-haired white girl
Mm-hmm.
going to help, someone else, some other country in need. And you said there was a term that people label that as. What was it?
White savior. White saviorism.
White savior.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys were aware of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
And you and Collins wanted to break those stereotypes, and there was things that you and I were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
how you wanted to do things differently with that. So what are you and Collins doing to make this a different organization where it doesn't have, the white saviors going in there and saving people in another country?
For real. Yeah. So that was something that I had to learn the hard way. Honestly, when I went to Uganda the first time when I was 19, I was that kid, right? That was like, I'm taking like this adventurous trip to Uganda, and I'm going to go and teach a elementary school classroom. And I signed up for this volunteer trip, and I was assigned a primary 1 classroom. I was going to teach math, which is ironic because like I didn't even pass math in high school. And so like of all people to be teaching math, it should not be me. So I go into this classroom, and I have my little lesson book, and I'm teaching these kids, or so I think. And I realized that the teacher of this class is sitting in the back of the room and just shaking her head slowly, just looking down at her book and just shaking her head. And I had this realization where I was like, I am wasting everyone's time being here. I'm not good at math. I'm not qualified to be a teacher. I'm 19 years old. Just because I'm from Colorado, I'm from America, and I just landed here does not give me the qualifications to stand in this classroom and teach these children. Their teacher has way more qualifications than I do. So why am I here? I got home from that trip, and at that time, Collins and I, had just started this idea of this organization we wanted to start. And I had a lot of heart-to-hearts with her about it. I got home from that trip and I just felt awful. I was like, why did I even go? Why was I there? What were my motivations for being there? And I had to do a lot of like self-reflective work of unpacking that and where that's rooted. And luckily, I have a lot of amazing friends and family in Uganda now who have called me out and said, Jayme, that sounds really weird. Or why would you say that? Or what are you doing? Or maybe let's think about this project in a different way. And because I think I've been so lucky to have a co-founder who was born and raised in this community, everything I know about this community comes from a local person, comes from a local leader. And so when we started Faraway Friends, we started with the belief that all of our projects, all of our programs, the design of what we do, anything we implement is created and implemented by local people first that are skilled and qualified and talented to do that. What Americans can do, what people that, you know, maybe have a huge heart and want to save the world, especially young people like, you know, 17, 18, 19 years old, maybe want to do a gap year. We want to teach them how not to make the mistake that I made. You know, for example, we talk to high school students a lot about, okay, if you're going to go to Uganda, you're going to go to Guatemala, you're going to go on a gap year, don't go and just like go to an orphanage and like hold somebody's babies, right? Like take pictures with somebody's kids. I mean, if that was your kids, like, and just somebody from Africa showed up and was like holding your sons and like taking photos with them and taking them home, you feel like this is so weird. So why is it okay the other way around? There's a lot of really
people doing it to make themselves feel better, right?
Right.
That's what you want to avoid. You want
Absolutely.
you want to help people because they're in need.
And you want to help people on their terms. You want to help people and ask them, what can I do? And what resources and platforms do I have that I can help leverage your voice and help make you visible and help get your story out there? And so when I came home from Uganda, Collins and I just started, you know, putting together lists of friends I could call and just talk to them. I am a talker. I love to talk. So I thought that's something I do really well. Why don't I go and do some public speaking gigs with friends and family? I used to have Ugandan bracelet parties. The ladies in our community would make these paper bead bracelets. These are literally hand rolled paper turned into beads. Collins would send me boxes and boxes of these, and I would call like all my mom's friends, all of our family friends, and I would sell these for like $5 and tell them the story to raise money that I would then send back to Collins. So then Collins would take that money and start implementing her design, her programs on the ground. And I got the opportunity to kind of be the bridge between the people she needed to provide her that support, and for them, an opportunity to be connected to a bigger story. So,
yeah, so it gets implemented the way that the people there want to do
exactly.
it. That respects their way of life, their community, etc. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you see that right now in Hawaii with the fire. Like the Hawaiians are like super pissed because they're like, not just the issue with the horns and stuff and other things that they say that weren't sounded or turned on to the warning system or whatever, but more the approach to your point, like, because it's a different culture, it's different people. So when other people come in and they just, you know, stick their chest out and say, oh yeah, I know what you need.
Yeah.
They're like,
right.
You don't even know us.
You don't know me. You don't know me, and you don't know my community, and you don't know my culture. And that's why I have a problem, Jeremiah, with like organizations that just want to scale everywhere, right? They want to take their model of what they do and they want to copy and paste it to a bunch of different communities or countries. And it's like, I get like the need to scale and like wanting to take your mission and apply it everywhere. But what works for one community might not work for another community. What one ethnic group thinks is a great project because they designed it might be totally offensive to another group. So you really got it. Like, that's what human-centered design is about, right? Like, how do we focus on the people that we're specifically trying to serve and put them at the helm of driving this difference that we're hoping to make?
Yeah. So once you and Collins, I hope you do accomplish your goals in Uganda and get everything to a point where, you have more educated people. You have teachers that are coming out of that. Obviously, you're gonna get a lot of teachers out of this. I can see it already. And then even if you and her look towards other, because you guys are both still very young, aren't you?
I mean, sure. Yeah.
Aren't you guys about 30?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are young. I mean, 30 years from now, you two will be 60, and you could still be cranking away. So
I hope so.
Even if you approach another country, you and her, and you grow your organization, or you start communicating with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same thing with the same approach that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would take a local person coming to us when we were ready and saying, I have this idea for my community and I want to implement it. Collins and I have dreamed about that a lot. Like once we've solved this problem and we have a proof of our concept that when you provide kids with everything they need to thrive, whole communities benefit, right? Once we've proven that in this community, then, then how exciting would it be to say, who wants this model? Do you want us to come and work with you in your community? But it's really important to us that whoever we're working with is a local leader in their community, that people respect and know them, that they're showing up for their people, that they are visible in their villages where they work. Because you also see a lot of people who, Americans and locals alike, who start a project, think they're so excited about it, take some pictures, leave, and then they never come back. Like I made a commitment to this community of Amolatar district in this corner of Uganda. I'm going to follow through with that commitment. I'm just one person, right? So maybe someday, once that commitment has been accomplished, we can be committed to somewhere else. But until then.
Yeah, and you mentioned local labor as well, like local contractors and stuff like that, because a lot of organizations, they'll bring in
oh god, it's my worst nightmare.
They'll drop some Connexes,
oh my god, Jeremiah, it's my
equipment.
worst nightmare.
Yeah.
So my dad was a contractor and ran his own company, and so I have a huge value for people who are doing blue collar, really tough jobs. And Collins' father, same way, self-employed. Her mom as well. Her mom has an incredible story too. It was really important to us that we are only hiring local people, or at least Ugandans, to serve the work that we want to do. So let's say we want to create a new student dorm. We're hiring a local construction company, and we're putting that contract in their hands, not only because we trust and know that local people do the best job, but because there's that ownership piece. And it's supporting local economies. We're literally fueling local economies. Those guys that worked on that building are taking that paycheck home to their children who might go to our school, or go to one of our sister schools. So it's really important to us that we're feeding back into that community. Recently, we got a really big grant to do solar power on our entire campus, and one of the first things I said to the corporate partner that came to us, I said, I want this to be done locally. That we had talked about, they were like, well, we can get a Denver company to ship solar panels over there. And we were like, nope, we got to buy from a local vendor. We got to hire a local engineer. And we need to give these jobs to local people. So all of our construction, our well digging, from the nurses that we hire to the groundskeepers, it's all locally employed people.
Yeah. Imagine, Africa has been raped and pillaged for so many years.
By white people a lot.
Well, too, the French. I think the Germans were there for a minute, but they were more war. They were in the north. That was more for war. Yeah, the French, the British. Yeah.
The Portuguese. Spanish.
Yep.
Yeah. So the list goes on.
Even now.
Yeah.
There's, I think China's in there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think France might still be in there. I'm not sure.
Maybe in some countries, but yeah, you see a lot of, there is some interesting neocolonialist things that are going on in Uganda. Almost none of the roads that are big highways there are built by like local people, so which is really unfortunate. There is highly skilled and talented people all over the world, everywhere you go. And like, for example, like you mentioned, organizations sending construction workers or equipment or teachers. The teachers thing is really the worst part for me. But you're literally taking a job out of a local person's hand.
Well, even if they're not skilled and talented, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because of course, where I'm going with this, of course they're not going to be if you don't give them the opportunities. Mm-hmm. If you're bringing in a company and you're bringing in your own workers mm-hmm. who are already educated and skilled and already have those skills, then they're just going to leave when they're done, and the mm-hmm. skills just leave with them.
There you go.
So
yeah,
you
Right.
can't teach people if you don't give them the skills. And plus
Absolutely.
all the money from the natural resources and everything. Obviously the companies are there to get something.
Right.
They're not just there to hang out.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you
There's
know.
some really nefarious stuff that goes on, and a
Yeah.
lot of corruption, and you wouldn't believe. It's wild.
Imagine all the years and the decades and the hundreds of years and centuries if everything that ever happened in that country was done by local people and not
Yeah.
by other countries coming in.
And I think you and I talked about this last time, but the continent of Africa is poised to become home to the world's biggest workforce in the next 20 years.
Yeah, you told me that before. Now explain that.
Yeah, so that's wild. So just to give you perspective on Uganda specifically, Uganda is a country full of children. I believe this statistic is correct, over 50% of Uganda's population is children under the age of 18. So let me say that again. Half of the entire country's population is a teenager.
So what's the average? Like, what is the United States?
That's a great question. I would have to look that
Or do you know what
statistic
kind
up.
of, like, is that high?
Very high, very high. Uganda by population is one of the youngest countries in the world. I think maybe Malawi beats them. There might be one other. Maybe Michael can look that up for us.
Yeah, this says here that children below 18 years old make up 55% of
55.
Uganda's population.
What about
from
the
a 2014 census?
55%? What about the U.S.? How does that compare to, like, the U.S.? Just so we can put it in perspective mentally.
U.S. 22.1.
Yeah.
So more than double.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be like doubling our schools in some.
Yeah.
And
So
you got all those kids running around saying, I need a job.
So you've got all of these kids who by high school have never touched a computer, who at least I'm speaking about like our very rural community that we're working in. These kids haven't had the experience of working on a computer. Some of them only have like radios in their houses, maybe a TV. And so what kind of skills are we providing these students who are going to be this giant workforce in just a few years? And if we as a world, as a global community, aren't prepared, we're going to have a crisis on our hands, of a massive unemployment crisis that of the likes we've never seen, right? And how many great, incredible minds are we losing to an issue that could so easily be solved if we just invested more in especially primary education for these kids, got them set up with the tools they need, so that when they're ready to enter the workforce, they're becoming the next environmental engineers, the next scientists, doctors, lawyers. One of our students who just graduated is in high school now. She told me she wants to be a human rights lawyer. It's like, I hope you do, Queen. That's amazing. So to me, the biggest tragedy is if we lose that generation to apathy because it's Africa, or we don't care because it's so far away. That's why we're called faraway friends, right? Just because you're born in a community that's far away, that's rural, that's off the map, does not mean you deserve to be ignored by the rest of the community or by your own country for that matter. So we want everybody that we know to see these kids, to see how incredible they are, to see this community and how vibrant and strong it is, and see that as something to invest in for the future of all of us, really.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing while you were talking about it, because you're right. Even if you don't care, even if it's not your problem, even if you're like, oh, that's over there, when you have that many kids and they have nothing to do, you're going to have to deal with, they're not going to want to stay there. So you're going to have to deal with immigrants. They're going to be wanting to leave and go other places if there's not opportunities there. And when they do, you're going to be getting a bunch of people. If you don't educate them, you're going to get a bunch of people that are uneducated and unskilled. And now that is your problem.
And the scariest part of that is that's where you see...
That's if you're looking at it from a selfish perspective.
Yeah. And that's when you see disease spike, where you see HIV/AIDS spike, you're seeing teen pregnancies, high dropouts. And again, the cycle of generational poverty continues and continues. And if you can interrupt that cycle by having, one person in one family break it and say, you know what, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to get a great job. I'm going to serve my family the way that Collins was able to do, to come back to her community. She's helped put all of her siblings through school because she got a chance to continue school, to go on, to get an amazing education, and come back and do something incredible for 500 plus the 2,500 kids we're working with. So thousands of kids in her community are benefiting because one person made it from their village. So
you said she's going to run for office?
Yeah.
What is she wanting to run for?
She actually ran, was it in 2021? But she is going to run again in, I believe, 2026 for Uganda Member of Parliament. She wants to be a woman Member of Parliament from her district, which would mean she would have a parliamentary seat in Uganda and have a say for how the government allocates spending and laws for her people. I think she has a damn good shot next year. She was
she should teach these
26.
kids. Are there classes on political science?
Oh my gosh, they definitely get it. They definitely get it. There's kids that like walk around and call her Honorable Miss Collins, Honorable Principal Collins, like much. And there is truly no person better than her to represent her community. Her story is incredible. She's overcome insurmountable odds. She can relate to her community and also speak to people like you and I who are from a totally different side of the earth and help us relate to the issue so that we can find ourselves in that story and find purpose and drive through the work that she does. So damn, I'm really lucky to work with her. Yeah, I can't wait for you to meet her.
Yeah, in October when she comes out.
Yeah,
you guys are gonna have to come back. Can we go through? I want to share some of these pictures with the viewers
for sure,
and have you explain some of them. Can we just go through these? So, let's see. So go ahead.
Yeah, so this is what you're seeing here on the screen now. This is Collins when she did a TEDx teen talk. I believe that was 2011. This would have been around the time that I first met her. If you go to the next slide, Michael, this is Collins and I when I was 17, when we first met. So we've recreated this picture a whole bunch of times.
Can we go back one picture? I have a question.
Yeah.
So on the left, is that from what is that?
Yeah, so this is children who were affected by the LRA war, just to kind of give you a visual of what that might look like. So this is a photo of a child who's, maybe around your kid's age, holding I don't even know what kind of gun that is, but a gun that's almost as tall as him. So in her presentations, Collins would talk about some of the friends and family members she had that were abducted and forced to fight in the war. There's just countless unimaginable stories of what these kids had to endure.
Man, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is the TED Talk? If someone wanted to look it up.
Yeah, I'll send you the link so that you can check it out.
Perfect.
It's a little bit old because it's from 2011, but just an incredible kind of background on the LRA and Collins's story.
Information is never old.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, we'll put that in the description.
Awesome.
For the video.
Thanks. Yeah. And then if we skip through a couple of these slides, Michael, probably a little bit towards the end, you can keep going. I'll tell you when to stop. You saw Global Leaders Primary School. So I'd love to talk about our maize mill and kind of how we're keeping this work sustainable. That's something that people ask me a lot is like, all right, well, this is cool, but like, how is it going to be sustained? Like someday, are you planning on staying here forever? And really the vision is that especially Global Leaders as a project, our model school, we can hand that back to the community and it can be run independently on its own without any funding from faraway friends.
Yeah, you don't want to just keep dumping money into something. You want to build something that can sustain itself a system that can sustain itself.
When COVID happened and the world shut down, our fundraising stopped as well. And that was really when we had a, oh my God moment of like, if we're not sending money, how is this going to be sustained? So again, with local people, we had a lot of local leaders, local chairmen. We sat down with government district officials, Collins's friends and family. We sat down and said, what is the best investment we could make that would bring in money for our school and serve the community? So we started our own community maize mill that is going to help us reduce costs for the food that we serve our kids.
So what do they grow to make the maize?
So it's corn. So they grow maize in.
I should have known that. Sorry.
No, you're good. The area where we work, they grow maize during certain times of the year. But in this community, Jeremiah, farmers are leaving and going north up to Lyra, which is about 3.5-4 hours away, to grind it and to bring back their final product of their maize.
A lot of fuel, time.
Flour. So it's the prices are crazy. And we were like, we're paying so much money just to feed our kids. How can we solve this issue and solve an issue for farmers in the area?
So you got this system set up.
Yeah. So,
and how much does something like this cost?
Man, this project has been a labor of love through a lot of donors for several years. Actually, it took us about 3 years to start this. We've probably poured. But
this particular system right here.
$10,000 for those machines, and we have some machines that are forward in this photo as well.
But that's not terrible.
Yeah, it's
$10,000 to make food.
Yeah,
to have equipment to make food.
Yeah, so all in all, for the building, for the land, for the machinery, and we had to buy a transformer that is now providing power to some homes in that village where this is. But we had to buy our own transformer, which was like $20,000 on its own. So we're probably like $40,000 into this project, but it is sustainable and it is going to support farmers, help them to reduce costs on their final product, and we're able to make some money for our school as well.
So this what is it? This mill, you have $40,000 invested into the mill. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not terrible.
No, we're able to do our work really, really lean. Collins, we always say she is a magician of money. Like, she knows how to stretch every single dollar and work. She is a negotiator with the contractors for sure, so that our donors can know, like, when they're giving to faraway friends, like we're really pulling so that every piece of their money that they've invested in us is used in the right way.
Yeah. So if somebody hears this and you got some money laying around and you got a lot of money, don't be a tightwad.
Farawayfriends.org. That's where you can find us. I think on the next slide, we also have a photo of our brand new project, which is a digital literacy lab. We were lucky enough to partner with an organization called Team for Tech recently. They gave us a grant that was matched by a foundation based in London to start the first digital literacy computer lab in any primary school in the entire district. So we are the only school in this region, this area, that is providing little kids under high school age with computer skills, which I think is so important. Like, when did your kids start using computers? Probably like kindergarten.
Oh yeah,
I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
Before then.
Yeah, they were smoking me by like, I don't know. I think that was about 4th grade, 5th grade. I want to say they started to try to correct me when they see me working on the computer, and I was like, man.
Right.
Back up off me. I know what I'm doing.
Right. But
they're like, no, but you're not do this.
Do this, Dad. Yeah. But these are the skills that they have to get by now. Right. Like, it's so, digital literacy is just as important as like actual reading, right? Like regular literacy. So we thought, like, how can we solve this problem? The first problem was power. We had a corporate donor that came in and did that big power project with us to get solar. So now we have sustainable power. And then the next thing was like, how do we get computers in the hands of our kids and teachers? And this grant came along and provided us with this opportunity. So I actually had a kid come up to me last time I was there, and he was like, Miss Jayme, I just want to ask, I'm in 7th grade and I'm going to be graduating next year and going on to high school. Is there a chance I might learn computers before I graduate? I was like, yes, Matthew, we're starting the computer lab. And so when Matthew goes back to school in September, he gets to have his first computer class and
in 7th grade
and go on to high school with computer skills. In this area, there are high school and college students that have, never had experience typing, searching the internet, getting research done. And this opportunity cracks open the rest of the world to these kids who are really geographically isolated because of where they grew up. And now they have news from every corner of the earth in their classroom in their village.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're super excited about that project. That's the newest one. I think the next slide talks a little bit about our Schools for Schools program, which is kind of where my heart and soul is, if I'm being completely honest. I think I mentioned to you that we have about 6 school partners we work with in Uganda, and each of those school partners has a sister school in the US. So kids in those sister schools in the US start a Faraway Friends Club and do letter writing to kids at their sister school, learning about another culture through the eyes of a kid their age, but also they work on development projects together. So the Ugandan students, as a student body, decide what project they need the most support with. Maybe that's toilets being rebuilt, or maybe that's a classroom needs a roof. And then they talk to their American Faraway Friends Club members in a high school like Lakewood High School or Dakota Ridge, or we have high schools in Florida that are participating in this program. And these kids, cross-culturally, are learning how to work together to solve a problem. The American kids fundraise, they talk to friends and family, they're learning public speaking skills, presentation skills, about something they're really passionate about. They raise the funds, we send that to Uganda, and the Ugandan kids are able to see a real project in their own school that they have inspired themselves by talking to their peers across the ocean, across 8,000 miles about it. In the Schools for Schools program, we have that Skills for Life curriculum that we're offering in Uganda. So for example, Dakota Ridge High School last year funded an entire year of Skills for Life for their sister school. So that was paid for by high school students across the earth. And then we also do our AfriPads distributions. AfriPads are reusable sanitary hygiene pads for girls, so that they never have to miss a day of school during their period. Girls in Uganda are much, much more likely to drop out of school than boys because of challenges of period poverty. If they don't have the money to buy pads that are disposable, oftentimes they're using rags or things that are not healthy for young women. So we want to make sure that they have everything they need. They never have to miss a day of school. And again, their high school partners are the ones that are putting those tools into their hands. And Faraway Friends is just a connector vehicle for that. So,
yeah, we were talking about this earlier. So they're just the simplest things.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have access to.
Yeah. Yeah. And a pack of AfriPads costs us about $12 to buy, and it lasts a year. So, I mean, as you know, you're a girl dad, you know that like if your daughter needed something, you just go to the store and get it. It's not a big deal. These girls are at boarding school and are maybe facing some challenges financially, or their parents just can't afford to like literally buy them pads. And so we want to make sure, okay, at least if you're in a school that Faraway Friends is partnered with, girls know that they're going to be taken care of. So that's one of the projects that is just such an easy fix, and it keeps girls in school. We've seen a reduction in girl absences at the schools that we work at. Teachers are thrilled about it. Male community members are like, can I bring some home for my wife? It's amazing. So that's a really impactful program.
Yeah, when I was in Tanzania for a while.
Yeah.
When I went to Tanzania, we went to a shopping center that sold just basic, whatever you needed. It wasn't anything super special, but it was inside of a compound guarded by men with AK-47s standing out front. So I even just like walking to the store and walking into this compound to get stuff is like, kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
So
now imagine being a 15-year-old girl who, you might bleed through your skirt and like you're in a pickle here, and you're going to walk into a giant supermarket, if that's even available in your community, that is guarded by men with AKs outside. Like, it's just that the accessibility is such a problem, and the availability of these products. A lot of these products are imported. They're not locally made. So there's a huge tax on them, and they're just unaffordable. So during their cycle, these girls are staying home for a week at a time. They're missing a week of school and then going back and having trouble catching up, and they're dropping behind their peers. So it's just a really simple thing that we also involve boys in that conversation. We talk about men with integrity are able to support and protect their peers who are menstruating, and if she has an accident, how can you as a male supporter help her in a way that's not going to embarrass her, and help your sister or your mom or your aunties, and kind of breaking that taboo down for boys too also helps girls by proxy be less made fun of, less embarrassed about something that's really perfectly healthy and normal.
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing. You're teaching them those ethics.
And the cool thing about AfroPads is a Ugandan run business. Again, it is a Ugandan run business that is hiring and employing all Ugandan women locally. So we go pick them up in Kampala and truck those babies up to Omolatar. And our girls, even though sometimes I like take it for granted and I'm like, oh, it's like something so normal, they're not gonna like be thrilled about it. Girls come up to me and they're like, did you bring AfroPads? Do you have them? Do you have them in the truck? I'm like, yes, we do. So
yeah, it's very
really
important. I mean, I can't imagine. I've obviously never experienced that, but yeah, that's got to be special. Yeah.
You know, you keep talking about the importance of like local businesses, and the thought you were talking about contractors, and the thought in my head was, there's stories about projects in the U.S. and we're like, man, that took 10 years longer than it was supposed to, and like it was $2 billion over budget, and nobody knows where the money went, right? So just the idea of like sending an American company over there to do this to a place where they're less supervised, and there's great people who wouldn't do that, right? But in my mind, that it jumps to that thinking like, well, there's a high likelihood that something like that could happen. And then also just building a model with sustainable, just like costs that make sense to them, right? Because bringing someone from another country to do these things is, again, going to cost way more than finding somebody locally to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, cool, while that made you feel great, like what is going to happen when something breaks and you're not here to fix it? Then what?
And it doesn't help it anyways, because you're right. To do that, to build that mill, an out-of-country contractor would charge $5 million. It cost you guys $40,000. I
know. Yeah.
Like, okay, well, let's take the $5 million and let's build 20, 30 more of these.
Right.
Or 20, 30 of something else.
Yeah,
that's comparable.
Absolutely. And, two things just, I just want to make clear is that like, we're still figuring things out. We're still a young organization. We're still going to make mistakes. We're still going to invest money in places and projects that maybe don't work out.
Doesn't seem like you're going to lose much.
What I want like our donors to know and like our community to know is that like we are always learning, and especially, me as a white American leader of a Ugandan co-leader of a Ugandan organization, I want to be very sensitive to, I am always learning every day how to be a better advocate for this community, how to speak on behalf of the children in this community and their parents and their families that I've met in a way that's going to make them really proud. And the contractors we work with, I want them to be proud of the work that we're showing, people abroad that they've completed. So always learning, always trying to advance. We don't do everything right, but I think we're doing something right. And all of our organization has been $20 donations, friends and family. We have one very generous donor in Florida who has supported us since the very beginning, and she covers about 25% of our budget, I would say. We're so lucky to have her in her community. But other than that, it's like really like friends, family, people like you and me donating $20 a month to make all of this work. When you just mentioned like a $5 million gift, what could we do with that, right? That would change everything. That would change the trajectory of everything that we could do, and we could do it faster and more efficiently and hire great people to do it. I'm the only U.S. staff now, so that we're able to keep costs really, really low on the U.S. side and invest all of our money in Uganda. But if we want to grow our organization, again, to be able to do these things faster and keep up with the rate of these kids graduating out of our schools that we're working in, we need more investments. So if anybody out there is listening and looking for a way to get involved with an organization that's committed to learning and doing things effectively and well, we're here to serve those needs. So looking for that $5 million donor.
Yeah, where you at?
I know, right?
Come out.
They're listening to the Our World podcast right now.
They
So
better be.
let's hope.
They better be. So,
And they better subscribe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like, and share, please.
I just want them to donate to the faraway friends. They don't have to subscribe. Yeah, subscribe too. So, what was I going to ask you? Well, I was going to say I'm in the construction industry, and when mistakes are made, they do cost money. But from what I'm seeing, your mistakes could be $500 or a couple $1,000s. They're not really like the way you guys are doing things. From what it seems like, obviously, I don't have access to everything you guys are doing on that side of everything. But I imagine the mistakes are very minimal.
Yeah. And I mean, like, again, when you have local experts that know exactly how this type of brick is going to age because they know the brick maker, like the literal person that like molded the bricks for this structure, and they know where that's bought from, and they know how the seasons change and how that's going to affect our rafters in our school. I mean, we're able to mitigate a lot of those issues right off the bat, because whereas like a foreign construction company might not have those skills and know like, okay, I know that this year rainy season is going to be early. That could destroy our lumber. Let's figure out how we can address this issue. We've been able to solve those right out the gate. We did have an incident right when we started our school. We put a roof on, we had a bad storm, and the roof blew off. And thank God we didn't have any kids in the school just then. But since then, we've always just tried to do things slowly, thoughtfully, carefully, as often as possible. But it doesn't cost much to have a huge impact. And like I said, we're an organization that runs super, super lean, so that we're able to make a massive impact with every single one of our dollars. I would argue that in some ways, and Collins will tell you this too, we're doing more than some organizations we know that are a $3 million a year organization. Our budget is under $500,000 a year, that we're able to employ 30 plus locals, do these construction projects for local people, employ all of our staff, keep our kids healthy.
$500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's serving like 3,500 kids in this district, employing almost 35 people full time.
I can appreciate that, because I am frugal as hell and I'm always looking for the deal. So I can just picture Collins. She's over there. She's getting the okay, we need to do this project. Yeah. Okay. She's getting all the quotes, and she's haggling with them. She's negotiating. Yeah. And then here you go. And she's like, okay, this is going to cost $10,000. And it's like nothing compared to what it would cost.
Which, like, you'd be surprised though, because I'm running a nonprofit. I'm not running like a service business, right? So it's like it's tough when Collins comes to me and says, Jayme, we really need to build a lunchroom, for example. It's going to cost us $15,000, and we have to do that in the next 3 months before rainy season comes. I'm one person here on the U.S. side with a $15,000 ask on my desk, and my job is figuring out how we make that possible.
You can't even build a garage here for 30
I know,
grand.
Right? Yeah. So my job is finding a donor or donors or people like us who want to be part of that project, who want in on that project and can say, we were the ones who helped support that. There is a collective of donors that helped make the maize mill possible, and it's our job to make them really, really proud of their investment. But it is hard, especially in an economic downturn like we're experiencing now. We've seen donations fall by about 20%, which has been devastating. Right now we have a $15,000 food bill for our kids. When they start back to school in September, they're in school for the next 3 months. It's costing us $15,000, and that's just 50% of the total cost. GLP, our school, covers the other half.
For how long is that?
3 months. So every 3 months is $15,000 for food. And so we're scrambling right now, trying to figure out how we, pull those donations in for now and for the beginning of next year, just to ensure that our kids don't miss a meal. The pressure of that is intense, right? Like, these are real people and real lives and real school meals we're talking about. If we have an economic disaster happen and everybody pulls their donations out, it's so important that there are sustainable businesses on the ground in Uganda who can pick up that slack. Global Millers, our grain mill being one of them. We're hoping to start a poultry farm maybe later on, maybe a bakery, but asking for money and hunting down those donations is sometimes the hardest part. So doing stuff like this and being asked to come and tell the story to a new audience who might have new connections, we were talking about connections upstairs earlier, is a game changer for a small organization like ours, because one person has the potential to change the whole game. And no gift is really too small. We put $50, $500 to work. I have a list of all the needs that Collins has that she's asked me, find a donor for this. Can you find a donor for that? It's never ending. But the beautiful part of that is that donor gets to be part of something real and see real change happen globally right in front of them. So
when these kids graduate from high school, what are some of the what grade do you have up to right now?
So we have up to primary 7, which is kind of like our 8th grade level, right before they go on to high school.
And where are they going after that?
So yeah, that's kind of a tough situation that we're trying to address right now. In Amulatar district, there are about 2 high schools that are enrolling kids often, and they do a decent job. But if you want to go to a school that can qualify you to get into university, you have to go outside of your district. And if you can't afford to go outside your district for school, you're not going. So we've started partnering with the high schools in that district to ensure that our kids have a seat, at least a place to go locally. And we also want to uplift those local schools, right? Kids should be proud of where they grew up. I'm really lucky to be a 4th generation Lakewood, Colorado native. I went to Lakewood High School. That's been part of my story. I'm proud to be from here, right? I want those kids in Amulatar to be proud of where they're from. They should be able to go to high school where they're from and go to a good high school where they're from. But there's a huge brain drain happening in that district where kids are leaving en masse, going to schools in other districts and then never coming home. Because why would they? What opportunities are there, right? So.
Yeah, it sounds like there's still a bigger problem, that there's still help needed with other facilities and more high schools.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. Collins, like, and when she's here in October, she'll mention it to you. She always likes to tell me, like, we still have another school in us yet. Like, we're still going to build a high school. And that is like so scary to me. It took us 10 years to get, to this level. And, it scares me to think how much work it would be to add a high school into that mix. But
well, you guys have been working on it for 10 years, but when did you start building the school?
In 2015.
Also 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So almost 10 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're all right. Remember, I said you're going to be 60 and
That's
you guys
right.
are still going to be building.
That's right. So and again, it just takes one person to come through and to change that trajectory. If we had a donor tomorrow that said, I'd invest $100,000 so that you can build a high school, we'd be in a completely different spot.
100,000 would build a high school?
Oh, yeah. Oh, our school that we have 500 kids at right now cost us $35,000 to build that structure. $100,000 would build a state-of-the-art high school on our campus.
Are you kidding me? 100,000?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the last house I moved into, we got a quote to just landscape the backyard, and it was $80,000, I think.
No
yeah,
way.
and that was just like level it out, put some grass in.
Wild.
That's insane.
Yeah. So it's like,
Jeez.
you can level your grass and do your yard, or you can help 500 kids change the trajectory of their entire lives, which who knows what they'll become. I like to think that, like, maybe there's a kid sitting in a desk in our classrooms right now that is like the next Elon Musk, or like the next, Oprah Winfrey, or just like the next billionaire, right?
Yeah. There was a quote that I was looking for, and I couldn't find the origin of it. I heard it somewhere, but it was something like, chances are that the most intelligent person that ever lived was was born and died in Africa, and the
Yeah.
world didn't know any
Ugh.
difference.
Wild.
Yeah.
And I believe that so hard. Like, truly.
Well, it's just making a point, right? Because who is the best athlete? You know, is Michael Jordan the best athlete? Is this person the best athlete? But you don't know if you've never lined everybody up and said, okay, you guys all have a shot.
You never know.
Because the point is, they just don't have a shot.
Yeah.
They don't have a chance,
Yeah.
an opportunity.
That's one of our board members always says, talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not, right? So we have so many talented kids in our school that I've watched grow up since they were little. So it started with us in, kindergarten, or now in like 5th grade. And they're so talented and incredible, just like any other kid in an urban setting, or here in Colorado, or in New York City, or Dubai, or anywhere around the world. The difference is that this kid didn't have the resources that they needed right out the gate. They didn't have the teachers that were trained enough to support them, or they didn't have maybe the food at school to sustain them. They didn't have an AfriPad pack so that when they were menstruating that they could stay in school. They didn't have life skills behind them to teach them how to set healthy boundaries or manage their their allowance. And when you invest in that way in kids, imagine what's going to come out of that investment. You can't quantify that, right?
So $100,000 would build a school.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So the only concern I have with that is like $100,000, let's build the building.
Yeah, but then you had to have the monthly costs.
You got the monthly cost, you got the teachers, and then you also got to ensure that that's going to be sustainable. So partner that school with a business. So give me $150,000. I'll build a business right next to the school that will support all of the monthly needs.
You hear that, Mr. Beast? You
Yeah.
out there? You throwing
No
money
kidding,
around like
right?
it ain't nothing.
I know. And again, like I just get to be the connector of that story, because I live here in Colorado, because I have an opportunity to, be physically here with you and have this podcast interview and meet with people and have events here. But the exciting thing is Collins and our teammate Rita are coming here to tell the story themselves. We're going to be doing a 3-state tour. We're calling it the Breaking Cycles, Building Futures tour, where Collins going to be sharing her story. We're going to be in Colorado in October. We're also traveling to Houston, Texas, and to Sarasota, Florida. So if you're listening from one of those states, we would love to come and visit you this fall.
Man. This is blowing my mind.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's just crazy. It's crazy how we just don't know. And there are people that know.
Yeah.
I take that back. But there's a lot of us who do not know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you can speak to it like as a parent, right? Like you want the best for your kids. You want to ensure that they are just their biggest dreams get achieved. And like parents in this village feel the exact same way about their kids.
Of course.
Now the difference is there are some opportunities that are available to your kids that they're not available to those kids and those families just because of the chance of where they happen to be born, which is crazy to think about,
Yeah,
So
I can imagine how the kids feel too.
Yeah. So we're trying to do our little part. I'm trying to do my little part to as like a global citizen. My job too entails educating high school kids in these faraway friends clubs around the country about how to be a better global citizen. If you're interested in this kind of work, how you can get into it. If you're interested in business, how do you add a social entrepreneurship angle to your business where you're also making an impact while making money yourself? It's cool to be rich, dude, but like also like make the world a better place with your richness, right? With your wealth. Then you get the best of both worlds. So that's what we're advocating for. That's my North Star. That's what we're trying to do out here. So
I think you guys are going to do just fine.
thank you. I hope so.
Yeah.
Appreciate the opportunities to like come and talk about it. That's, like I said, we're a small organization. So any opportunity to speak or to present or to introduce what we're doing to a wider audience is really the most valuable thing we have right now.
Yeah. And I can't wait till Collins comes. I want to have her. I want to have you guys back. You and her.
Yeah. So fun. That would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jayme.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you guys both. And thank you for like sharing people's stories in the world. And like we were saying earlier, you never know what connections come out of something. One person could hear a story and it could change the entire trajectory of their life. That's happened with me and Collins. I'm proof of that. So thank you for telling stories that deserve to be told. Appreciate what you guys do a lot.
Oh, this is a challenge to Mr. Beast. If you hear this, come on, man.
Farawayfriends.org. That's where you can find us.
Right on.
Thank
you.
Thank
you, Jayme.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.